philosophy is an attempt to describe a reality, the parts that are not accessible through scientific instrumentation, the parts that have to be accessible through logical interpretation.
Which is why I'm always confused by the question, or by the supposition that the universe has no value. So please, if you want to say that there is value, then it's your case to prove. Well, value doesn't work like that. It's not...
Well, see, now it says you're saying value doesn't work like that. But it does work like that. There's a truth to be discovered, like all philosophy. Philosophy is an effort to discover the truth, not to make stuff up, not to be a psychologist, not to feed you candy, not to feed you what you want to hear. It's to describe what the reality is. And the reality is that when the whole game is played out, there'll either be more of this bad or more of the good, or the less bad. You know, I'd say it's always going to run in the red, but it can be more red. It can be bloodier or less bloody. And the blood could be a metaphor for value. And it's not a very distant metaphor, as one could clearly associate the spilling of blood with the wasting or squandering of suffering. Look, it's an invisible property. Let's just concede. You can't go look for it with a telescope or a microscope or so many other kind of scope. You can only find it through logic. And again, your own testimony is this instrument that makes it quite obvious to you. How can you deny the existence of your sentience? How can you deny the fact that it is a substantive thing? And you know it to be. But the point is that it can be argued against, because the fallacy is that you are not making value judgments when you make the value judgment that there is no value. You can't do that and still act in the world. As soon as you act in the world, you're making a value judgment. It is broken from its very core, the very concept of creating need machines and then giving them a world that's almost impossible to extract satisfaction of their need without imposing the unsatisfied need on something else. Alright, the game is basically this. First, let's just do the human culture thing, right? Human beings really haven't been around that long, and the educated ones have only been around for, 10,000 years at best. And, really educated. Seriously. So it was just about a bunch of knowledge acquisition. It came from monkeys and gorillas and whatnot, and raw animals didn't know how to control fire, do any of that stuff. We acquired that knowledge. We played the game. We picked and scratched at the world and sort of figured out how it works. And in that process, human beings, caught on to this God idea, as an explanation. As they said, well, we look down at ants, so maybe there's a God looking down at us. And they really didn't have any other way to explain everything that was going on. They didn't have, chemistry and biology and physics, so they just had a bunch of, thunder, spooky, scary, lightning, ooh, scary, hurricane, tornado, what the hell was that about? And so they drew this wrong conclusion that there was some sky daddy up there playing games with them and doing the carrot whip thing or whatever you want to say, getting them to behave the right way, and it would reward them. And so we basically just became superstitious. You lit a fire on a full moon in September, and 2 years in a row, the next day we had an earthquake, just by coincidence. Yeah, it got written in your little scary book of horrors, and so now you're afraid of fire, on full moons, or whatever it would be. So yeah, we became superstitious because we were smart enough to become superstitious, but not smart enough to know we were just being superstitious and stupid. We were drawing wrong conclusions. But look, the bottom line is, we're just need machines. We generate the potential for harm in the universe. The universe, without living well, more importantly, without feeling life, there's nothing to harm. There's no way anything destructive can happen in the universe without harmables. So if the feeling things don't exist, there's no downside risk. You maintain a guaranteed not losing. And not losing is kind of important. Not losing is a good thing. I know winning is, perceived as the way to go, but not losing is also good. And the risk of trying to win is the fact that you really can't. Because you have to kind of think of it like a lottery. And then all the other tickets are real value possessed by somebody else that you're going to basically be consuming or eating. So you really can't win without somebody else losing. Then there's going to be more losers than winners. It happens in every war. It happens in every contest. There's always more losers than winners. And, an open contest, unlimited players, you will create more losers than winners. And that's the paradox, the impossibility of our circumstance. You just can't play the life game without causing more harm than you're ever going to be able to compensate for with your moments of glory. It just isn't going to happen. There's no math to make this work. It's just going to fail. And so we just have to give up on creating the harmables, creating the need machines, because they don't need to exist. That's the key thing to understand. Because you feel the value doesn't mean the value is real.